Good afternoon, Patriot pals. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day and God bless you. Let's get into the news. ABC News is Jonathan Karl literally pushing a totally uncorroborated, what seems to be conspiracy theory about these 3 spy balloons during the Trump administration moving in American airspace unimpeded. Here's leftist grifter Bryan Cranston Steen on Twitter. Remember when Republicans attacked Biden for not shooting the balloon from China down and then for not shooting it down soon enough? Well, guess what? 3 Chinese spy balloons flew over the US during Trump's presidency. Guess what he didn't do? Yep, he let them go complete nonsense. As we're now learning, former intelligence chiefs dismiss claim that Chinese spy balloons were discovered during Trump's term. The intelligence chiefs, as well as others involved in national security matters during the Trump administration, have reportedly said that several Chinese balloons managed to breach US airspace during that time, but went undetected at the time, and it was only discovered after the 45th president left office that they were conducting surveillance. How well would you look at that leftist peddling and fake news? What a surprise, actually. Here's more fake news from leftist grifter Bryan Cranston Steen breaking. Trump-appointed Secretary of Defense James Mattis believed that Trump would be too aggressive, so he did not tell him about the Chinese spy balloons. Do your MAGA Republicans. This doesn't make Trump look good. It makes him look very bad. No, this looks like a deranged leftist conspiracy theory, and it also looks like treason, circumventing the chain of authority in American government? No big deal. I mean, never forget the General Mark Milley essentially got away with doing the same thing a couple of years ago. It's a bunch of bogus nonsense leftist talking points, conspiracy theories, and of course copia them a bunch of garbage takes or disingenuous takes as all these leftist talking heads scramble and start working overtime in their efforts to protect Sleepy Joe in the Democrat establishment, but it's too little too late. It's a continued pattern of weakness and capitulation. Democrats who are weak on China, weak on national security, weak when it comes to protecting American sovereignty. They're actually trying to make the argument that it's no big deal that China's invading US airspace and spying on strategic locations. I'm sure it's also no biggie that they've infiltrated most American universities that are conducting innovative research, stealing that research and sending it straight to China. No big deal. It's probably also not a big deal that they're brainwashing our youth with their demoralization campaigns using the CCP-owned TikTok app as a vessel. Oh, and by the way, let me show you Democrat weakness on the issue. And then this is some big news. Joe Biden is prepping for his State of the Union address tonight. But he's in the midst of what appears to be a pretty dramatic problem. And that is his reaction to this Chinese spy balloon situation. So there are 2 problems with Joe Biden's reaction. Problem number 1 is that Joe Biden delayed for like a week shooting down an obvious and spy balloon that flew over the entirety of the United States, stopping to take pictures of all of our nuclear installations. Apparently, they're waiting for a week on all of that. That is problem number 1. And then problem number 2 is that he activated members of the federal government who anonymously attempt to slander the last administration, saying they did the same thing, which they absolutely did not. These are both major problems when the President of the United States is, and he appears to be fibbing to you about all of this. It should be disquieting. So here's Joe Biden trying to maintain it. Actually, it was always his plan to take down the spy balloon, which is weird since you activated members of the left to claim that would be terrible to bring down the spy balloon as of Friday. And then Saturday, all of a sudden, we're retconning this thing, and he always meant to take down this Bible and always meant to do it either way. That is untrue. That is not in character. For Joe Biden, you'll remember that, according to Joe Biden, it was Joe Biden who tried to dissuade Barack Obama from actually taking out Osama bin Laden. Tremendous a long history of being really pacifistic in situations that require militants. I do not believe him for one iota of one moment. Nope. Not for a millisecond. By the way, this thing apparently floated over Alaska. So why did he wait until it is over the continental United States like the rest of the United States? So that is problem number 1, is I don't believe Joe Biden. I don't think that when he says that he always meant to shoot this thing down that he is telling the truth. And this brings up the second problem. And that is, and immediately in the aftermath of this quasi-scandal breaking, a bunch of members of the US military anonymously came out and said, well, this also happened under Donald Trump, and this activated the media and it activated the left. And they all got to claim that Donald Trump had blown it also. So if you think the Biden blew it, then Trump would, and all the Trump officials like, wait, what? We never saw anything remotely like this? Well, now as it turns out, it wasn't true. As it turns out, they only detected the Chinese spy balloons that happened under Trump. And that went into American territory for like a little while after the balloons were gone. So it's not even remotely comparable situation. In one situation, somebody breaks into your house, and then makes himself dinner, and sits down while robbing you, and stealing your silverware. And then eventually, after the guy sits there for like a couple of hours, you say, hey, maybe I should call the cops. And then the other somebody robs your house and leaves. And once they're gone, because you didn't know they were there in the first place. You come home from vacation, somebody's robbed the house, you call the cops, not the same situation. The first one is super weird, super bizarre. Especially when that robber's actually threatening you. They're just in your house eating. It makes you think that something is sort of complicit here almost. It's weird. I want a better explanation at the very least. Well, now again, they're going to have to walk back all of the slander that they were throwing. According to the Washington Post, the top U.S. general responsible for protecting North American skies said Monday the past incursions by Chinese balloons went undetected by the Pentagon, exposing what he characterized as a worrisome deficiency that must be addressed. So remember, over the weekend, they tried to claim that they had detected them, and they told the Trump people about it, and the Trump people had not done anything, which is why it was okay for Joe Biden not to do anything. So first of all, even if that had been true, it so would not be okay for Joe Biden to not do anything, since this balloon went all the way from Montana down to South Carolina across the entire continental United States. But as it turns out, it wasn't even true. They were out there basically lying. They were saying the same thing happened under Trump as not happening under Trump. Now a top U.S. general is saying it didn't happen under Trump. We detected that there had been a Chinese spy balloon in our space after it was gone. General Glenn Ban Heroku oversees the North American Aerospace Defense Command, quote, as Norton commander, it's my responsibility to detect threats to North America. I will tell you we did not detect those threats. That's the domain awareness gap we have to figure out, and Herc declined to elaborate, saying only that it was the U.S. intelligence community that made us aware of those balloons after the fact. And the entire media ran with this. Right? This was the big question, because all they're looking to do is cover for Joe Biden. Well, let's say that you are sitting at home and suddenly the radicals invade the state capitol building. They don't just invade the state capitol building, they shut off all the power. And the defensive Joe Biden continues to pace. Cory Booker, who I guess got out his puzzled eyes for this, as a Mr. Potato had never softened. He takes out his angry "Ask Cory Booker." On this one, he took out his puzzled eyes and he said the GOP is hypocritical for criticizing Joe Biden. Oh, really? Is it because it didn't? It didn't end with Donald Trump accused members of the executive branch being parts of the deep state attempting to undermine his administration. As it turns out, a lot of people were, and now post facto a bunch of deep state members are now attempting to blame Donald Trump for a problem that Joe Biden created. And this, by the way, is the pattern immigration problem under Joe Biden skyrockets massive crisis on the southern border. Well, it's Donald Trump's fault. Chinese spy balloon floats across the entire continental United States. Probably sound Trump's fault. Well, turns out no, it isn't. It's Joe Biden's fault. He's the president of the United States, which leads to, of course, the stupidest form of Biden offense happening on The View. Whoopi Goldberg, a woman so foolish that she believes everyone on earth is racist except for Hitler. I will never let her live this down. She literally said that Hitler is not right. And then, by the way, she apologized and then she repeated it again. Hitler is not a racist, but you are. You are. Here she is explaining that, it's not a big deal for the Chinese to spy on us. We spy on them. Oh, but see, here's the thing. I'm an American. I like this country. I don't like the Chinese government. They're a bunch of rapacious human rights abusers who wish to pervade their spread of communist authoritarianism on hundreds of millions like they're bad. I would like for us to keep tabs on them. And I'd like for them not to keep tabs on us because I'm an American. I like this. Anyway, here's what Bill Goldberg. By the way, it was right of Secretary Blinken to cancel his trip. I think that was the right diplomatic call. Well, listen, we spy on them. They spy on us, we find out stuff, they find out stuff, and the world keeps going around. And the world keeps going around. We can just ignore everything Joe Biden did. As long as you're wearing a sweatshirt. That's all that really matters. Whoopi Goldberg. She's just the worst. She's just the worst. Meanwhile, Karine Jean-Pierre, I love my favorite brand of foreign policy from the Biden administration is where they activate their spokespeople to try to chide some of the world's worst people into being glib by saying, you should be respected. They tried this with the Taliban, as the Taliban was taking over Afghanistan. You had the spokespeople for the Biden administration's Hammonds, Jen Psaki out there saying, we are expecting that the Taliban are going to obey human rights, and we're going to hold them to against you're gonna hold them to account by surrendering the entire country to them and leaving hundreds of millions of dollars in military equipment. They're nailed it. So now we're doing the same thing with China. Here's Korean Trump here being like, well, we do expect that they are going to be responsible, but why would you expect that isn't your job to hold them to account? There's going John PR, world's most untalented press secretary. Thank you so much for listening. God bless. I'll be back soon with another report. God speak to each and every one of you. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for all of your kind words. I'll be